What started as a routine industry disagreement may have just turned into one of the most talked about situations in hip-hop right now. And if the latest developments are any indication, this story could be heading in a direction that nobody saw coming. Because over the last few days, fans have been asking the same question. Is Finesse2Tymes finally ready to walk away from everything that helped build his career? And if he is, what does that mean for the people who helped put him in position in the first place? The rumors started quietly. A few comments here, a few social media posts there. Nothing that immediately raised alarms. But then the conversation began getting louder. Suddenly, fans noticed that Finesse2Tymes was speaking differently. His tone had changed. His message had changed. And more importantly, the people surrounding him appeared to be changing too. That's when things became impossible to ignore. Because according to growing speculation online, Finesse2Tymes may be aligning himself with an entirely new circle, and one name keeps appearing at the center of every conversation: NBA YoungBoy. Now, if you've been following hip-hop for any amount of time, you already know why that detail has everyone paying attention. This isn't just another artist connection. This isn't just another collaboration rumor. This is a kind of development that could completely reshape multiple relationships across the industry. And that's exactly why fans are watching every move. But here's where the story takes an even more unexpected turn. As discussions surrounding Finesse2Tymes and NBA YoungBoy continue gaining momentum, another name has suddenly been pulled into the spotlight: Prince. For years, Prince has been viewed as one of the most respected and influential figures in the music business. His reputation speaks for itself. His connections are legendary, and his impact on the culture is impossible to deny. Yet now, social media is flooded with debates, questions, and theories about where things stand behind the scenes. Some fans believe there's nothing to see here. Others think a major shift may be unfolding right in front of everyone. And the more people dig into recent interviews, social media activity, and public comments, the more complicated the situation appears to become. Because if these rumors are true, then this isn't just about one artist making a career decision. This could be about loyalty, business, relationships, and power. The kind of combination that has created some of hip-hop's biggest stories throughout history. But before we break down the latest developments, the reactions, and the growing speculation surrounding Finesse2Tymes, NBA YoungBoy, and Prince, there's one detail you need to understand first. Because hidden beneath all the headlines is a twist that could completely change how fans view this entire situation. And trust me, the deeper the story goes, the more surprising it becomes. To understand why so many people are suddenly paying attention to the situation, you have to understand the history behind it. Because this story isn't just about one rapper. It isn't just about one business relationship. And it definitely isn't just about a few comments that have recently gone viral online. This story is about loyalty. It's about influence. It's about power. And most importantly, it's about what happens when an artist begins questioning the people around him. For years, Finesse2Tymes has been one of the most fascinating figures in hip-hop. His journey has never followed a normal path. Unlike many artists who gradually work their way into the spotlight, Finesse's rise has always felt dramatic. Every chapter of his career has come with challenges. Every success has seemed harder earned. And every setback has only added to the mythology surrounding his story. Fans connected with that authenticity. They respected the struggle. They admired the comeback. And when Finesse finally started reaching mainstream audiences, many people believed they were witnessing the beginning of something special. The momentum was undeniable. The music was gaining traction. The numbers were growing. The industry was paying attention. And opportunities that once seemed impossible suddenly became reality. But as every experienced artist eventually learns, success creates new challenges. The bigger you become, the more people want a piece of the business. The more money enters the equation, the more complicated relationships can become. And the more successful an artist becomes, the more questions they begin asking about the people around them. Those questions often stay private. Sometimes they don't. And when they become public, that's when things get interesting. Enter Prince. For decades, Prince has been one of the most respected and influential figures in hip-hop. His reputation extends far beyond music. Artists respect him. Executives respect him. Industry veterans respect him. His name carries weight, real weight. Throughout the years, countless artists have spoken about his influence and his ability to navigate situations that most people would rather avoid. His presence alone often changes the conversation. That's why whenever Prince become connected to a story, people pay attention, not because he seeks attention, but because of what his name represents. Influence, experience, relationships, power. And for a period of time, many fans viewed the connection between Finesse2Tymes and Prince as a positive development. The partnership seemed logical. A rising artist, an established industry figure, experience meeting opportunity, guidance meeting ambition. At least that's how many people viewed it from the outside. But the music business is rarely as simple as it appears. Behind every successful artist are contracts, agreements, partnerships, financial arrangements, business decisions, and those are often the things fans know the least about. That's where speculation began growing. Not because anyone had complete information, but because questions started appearing. Questions about deals, questions about percentages, questions about how revenue was being divided, questions about who controlled what. Suddenly, conversations that had once remained behind closed doors were being discussed publicly. And the more those discussions spread, the more curious fans became. Because people love success stories, but they love conflict even more, especially when money is involved. Then another unexpected factor entered the picture: NBA YoungBoy. Now, this is where the story becomes even more intriguing, because NBA YoungBoy isn't just another artist. He's one of the most influential figures in modern hip-hop. His fan base is massive. His reach is enormous. And despite spending years at the center of controversy, his ability to command attention remains unmatched. Whenever YoungBoy speaks, people listen. Whenever his name appears in a headline, engagement follows. And over the years, he has developed a reputation for moving differently from many of his peers. Sometimes unpredictable, sometimes controversial, but almost always impossible to ignore. That's why fans immediately became interested when discussions began linking Finesse2Tymes and YoungBoy together. Not because there was some official announcement, not because there was a major press conference, but because the possibility itself created curiosity. People started asking questions. What exactly is happening? How close are these artists? Is there a new business relationship forming? Is this simply friendship? Or is something much bigger taking place? The speculation spread quickly. Social media accounts started posting theories. YouTube creators started connecting dots. Hip-hop forums exploded with debate. And before long, an ordinary industry discussion transformed into one of the most talked about topics online. The reason is simple. Every great hip-hop story contains a few essential ingredients: power, money, relationships, loyalty, conflict, and uncertainty. This situation appeared to contain all of them. What made everything even more fascinating was the timing. Finesse2Tymes appeared to be reaching a crossroads in his career. Not necessarily musically, but professionally. Artists eventually reach a point where they start evaluating everything around them: the people they trust, the deals they've signed, the opportunities they've accepted, the sacrifices they've made. And sometimes those evaluations lead to growth. Other times they lead to disagreement. The public rarely knows which one is happening until much later. That's exactly why so many people are paying attention right now, because nobody seems to have all the answers. Fans are piecing together information. Commentators are offering opinions. Industry observers are making predictions. But the complete picture remains unclear. And when information is limited, speculation fills the vacuum. Every interview becomes important. Every social media post becomes evidence. Every public comment becomes a clue. The result is a story that continues growing larger with each passing day. Some people believe this is simply another temporary industry discussion. Others believe it could signal a major shift behind the scenes. And that's where things become truly interesting. Because if recent developments are pointing toward a larger change, then the next chapter of the story could be far more dramatic than anything we've seen so far. The relationships involved are too significant. The personalities involved are too influential. And the questions surrounding the situation are becoming impossible to ignore. Which brings us to the moment that changed everything. Because just when fans thought they understood the situation, a new development emerged that completely shifted the conversation. And once that happened, what started as speculation suddenly turned into something much bigger. For weeks, the rumors had been building. A comment here, an interview there, a cryptic statement that seemed harmless on its own, but suddenly looked very different when viewed alongside everything else. Most fans ignored it at first. After all, hip-hop thrives on speculation. Artists post vague messages every day. People read too much into things every day. And most rumors eventually disappear. But this situation refused to disappear. Instead, it kept getting bigger. Every new interview added fuel. Every new social media discussion created more questions. And eventually, people started noticing a pattern. Finesse2Tymes wasn't just talking. He seemed frustrated. Not openly, not directly, but enough for fans to notice. Enough for commentators to start asking questions. Enough for industry observers to begin connecting dots. That's when the conflict truly began. Because what had once appeared to be a normal business relationship was suddenly being examined under a microscope. Fans started revisiting old interviews, old statements, old business discussions. They wanted answers. They wanted context. And most importantly, they wanted to understand why Finesse appeared increasingly determined to speak about independence. The word kept appearing. Independence, ownership, control, freedom. Those themes started showing up repeatedly. At first, nobody thought much of it. Artists talk about ownership all the time. Artists talk about business all the time. But when the same message appears over and over again, people begin paying attention. And that's exactly what happened. Suddenly, entire YouTube channels were discussing the possibility that major changes could be happening behind the scenes. Podcasters started debating what it all meant. Industry personalities offer their own interpretations. Some believed Finesse was simply becoming more business-minded. Others believed something deeper was happening, much deeper. Then came the first moment that truly shifted the conversation, a moment that transformed speculation into a full-blown debate. Because fans started focusing on one specific question. Who actually benefits the most from an artist's success? The artist? The management? The partners? The people behind the scenes? It's a question that has fueled arguments throughout music history. And now it was becoming central to the Finesse2Tymes discussion. Everywhere you looked, people had opinions. Some argue that experienced business partners provide opportunities artists could never access alone. Others argue that artists eventually outgrow the structures that help build them. The debate became intense, very intense. And as those conversations spread, something unexpected happened. The public started viewing the situation through a completely different lens. What initially looked like a contract discussion was now being framed as a battle over independence, a battle over direction, a battle over the future. That shift changed everything. Because battles over money come and go. Battles over vision become personal. And once things become personal, emotions take over. The online reaction became impossible to ignore. Hip-hop pages started posting clips. Comment sections exploded. Fans picked sides. Some stood firmly behind Prince and the importance of loyalty. Others argued that every artist has the right to explore new opportunities. Neither side was backing down. Every day brought new arguments. Every day brought new theories. Every day brought new speculation. And then came the twist nobody expected. NBA YoungBoy's name started appearing more frequently. Not once, not twice, constantly. At first, fans dismissed it. Then they became curious. Then they became obsessed. Because if there is one person capable of instantly changing the direction of a conversation, it's YoungBoy. His influence stretches across the entire culture. His supporters are among the most passionate in music. And whenever his name enters a story, attention follows immediately. Suddenly, what had been a discussion about finesse and business relationships became something much larger. People started asking new questions. Was YoungBoy involved? Was there a partnership forming? Was this simply friendship? Or was there a bigger plan unfolding behind the scenes? The uncertainty drove engagement through the roof. Nobody seemed to know exactly what was happening, but everyone wanted to be first to figure it out. That curiosity created the perfect environment for speculation, and speculation spread at lightning speed. One social media account claimed there were signs of a growing connection. Another pointed to recent interactions. A podcast host suggested that major changes might be coming. A commentator argued that fans were reading too much into things. The result was complete chaos. Nobody agreed. Everyone had a theory, and every theory seemed more dramatic than the last. But then another twist emerged. Not from a rapper, not from a manager, not from an executive, from the fans themselves. Because the conversation stopped being about what had happened. It became about what could happen. That distinction matters a lot, because once people start imagining future scenarios, the story takes on a life of its own. Fans began predicting outcomes. Some believed Finesse was preparing for a major career move. Others believed the situation was being exaggerated. Some thought relationships were changing permanently. Others insisted everything would eventually be resolved. The uncertainty created endless discussion, and endless discussion created momentum. The momentum became so strong that industry personalities started addressing the topic directly. Even people with no direct involvement were suddenly weighing in. Everyone seemed fascinated by the possibility of a major shift. And that's when the first real shockwave hit. The focus moved away from contracts, away from percentages, away from business details, and directly toward loyalty. Because in hip-hop, loyalty isn't viewed as just another business term. It's personal, it's emotional, it's cultural. It's often considered more important than money itself. The moment loyalty entered conversation, everything became more intense. Supporters of one side pointed toward respect. Supporters of another side pointed toward growth. Neither argument was simple. Neither argument had an obvious answer. And that ambiguity only made the story bigger. Suddenly, every statement carried extra meaning. Every interview generated headlines. Every appearance became an opportunity for fans to search for clues. The pressure continued building. The speculation continued growing. The attention continued multiplying. But here's where the story takes its biggest turn yet. Because while everyone was busy debating what was happening publicly, another possibility started emerging. What if the real story hadn't even surfaced yet? What if all the headlines, all the debates, and all the social media arguments were focused on the wrong thing? That possibility immediately captured attention. Because sometimes the biggest developments happen quietly, away from cameras, away from interviews, away from public statements. And according to growing speculation throughout the hip-hop community, there may be more pieces to this puzzle than anyone realizes. If that's true, then everything fans think they know right now could change overnight. The alliances, the business relationships, the future plans, all of it. And judging by the way the conversation continues to evolve, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. This story is no longer about a simple disagreement. It's no longer about one interview. It's no longer about one rumor. It's becoming a much larger conversation about influence, loyalty, and the future direction of one of hip-hop's most talked about artists. And if the latest developments are any indication, the biggest twist may still be waiting just around the corner. Just when people thought they understood the story, everything suddenly became far more complicated. Because what started as a discussion about business relationships was now turning into something much bigger. The conversation was no longer centered around contracts. It was no longer centered around percentages. And it was no longer centered around who was right or wrong. Instead, the entire narrative had shifted toward one question. What exactly is Finesse2Tymes planning next? That question spread through the hip-hop community faster than anyone expected. Every major blog was discussing it. Every reaction channel was debating it. Every fan page seemed to have a different theory. And the more speculation grew, the harder it became to separate facts from assumptions. That's when things started escalating. Because whenever uncertainty takes over a story, people start looking for clues. They analyze interviews. They analyze social media activity. They analyze every public appearance. Nothing becomes too small to examine, and that's exactly what happened here. Fans began revisiting old statements, old live streams, old interviews. Comments that once seemed insignificant were suddenly being interpreted in completely different ways. People started noticing patterns, or at least what they believed were patterns. One group argued that Finesse was preparing for a major career shift. Another group insisted he was simply expressing frustration. Others believed the entire situation had been exaggerated by social media. But regardless of which theory people supported, everyone agreed on one thing. The story wasn't slowing down. It was accelerating, fast. Then came the reveal that changed the direction of the conversation. Not because it confirmed anything, but because it completely shifted public perception. Instead of asking whether Finesse was unhappy, fans began asking something much more significant. What if this isn't about leaving something behind? What if it's about building something new? That subtle change transformed the narrative overnight. Suddenly, people weren't discussing endings. They were discussing beginnings. And that's where NBA YoungBoy's name started dominating conversations again. Not as a side character, not as a passing mention, but as a central figure in countless fan theories. The speculation became impossible to ignore. Every time YoungBoy's name appeared alongside Finesse's, engagement exploded. Comments multiplied. Videos went viral. Discussion threads grew longer. People wanted answers. The problem was that very few people actually had them. As a result, the mystery only became more attractive because uncertainty creates curiosity, and curiosity drives attention. The more unclear things became, the more people talked. Soon, the discussion spread beyond fan communities. Industry commentators started weighing in. Podcast hosts started offering predictions. Content creators began building entire episodes around the possibility of a changing power structure, not because anyone possessed definitive proof, but because the possibility itself was fascinating. And then came another unexpected development. The focus began shifting toward influence, real influence, the kind of influence that shapes careers, shapes opportunities, shapes futures. Because no matter how people interpreted the situation, one reality remained impossible to ignore. Finesse2Tymes had reached a point in his career where every decision mattered more than ever. Every partnership mattered. Every business move mattered. Every public statement mattered. The stakes were higher, much higher, and that reality created a new level of pressure. Fans weren't just watching entertainment anymore. They were watching a potential turning point, a moment that could define the next chapter of an artist's career. That's why emotions became so intense. Supporters of Finesse argued that every artist eventually seeks greater control over their future. Others argued that long-term relationships should not be discarded lightly. Some viewed the situation as growth. Others viewed it as risk. Neither side seemed willing to compromise, and the arguments continued spreading. Then came what many consider the most surprising reveal of all. Not a statement, not an interview, not an announcement, a realization. Because the deeper people examined the situation, the more they started noticing something unusual. The story had become bigger than the individuals involved. Much bigger. It was no longer simply about Finesse. It was no longer simply about YoungBoy. It was no longer simply about Prince. The conversation had evolved into something larger. A debate about artist independence. A debate about ownership. A debate about who truly controls the future of a successful career. That's why so many people became invested. Everyone saw something different in the story. Artists saw one thing. Managers saw another. Fans saw something else entirely. The same situation was producing completely different interpretations. And that made it even more compelling. Meanwhile, the online reaction reached another level. Every day seemed to bring a new theory, a new prediction, a new possibility. Some people believed major announcements were inevitable. Others believed the public was jumping to conclusions. The uncertainty remained. But instead of slowing interest, it fueled it. The mystery became the attraction. The unknown became the headline. And just when it seemed like the conversation had reached its peak, another possibility emerged. One that immediately grabbed attention. What if the most important move hasn't happened yet? Think about that for a moment. Everything fans have been discussing, everything commentators have been analyzing, everything social media has been debating. What if it's only the setup? What if the real story is still ahead? That possibility instantly reignited speculation, because history has shown that some of the biggest moments in hip-hop arrive when nobody expects them. The biggest announcements, the biggest partnerships, the biggest career moves often appear after weeks or months of subtle hints. And that's exactly why people remain glued to this story. They're waiting, watching, looking for signs, searching for answers, trying to figure out where everything is heading. But here's the biggest cliffhanger of all. Despite thousands of posts, hundreds of videos, and endless debate across social media, nobody truly knows what the next chapter looks like. Not yet. And that's precisely what makes this situation so fascinating. Because whether these rumors ultimately lead to major changes or eventually fade away, one thing has become absolutely clear. The spotlight is now brighter than ever. Every move will be scrutinized. Every statement will be analyzed. Every appearance will generate headlines. And if a major development is actually on the horizon, the shockwaves could be felt across the entire hip-hop industry. The question is no longer whether people are paying attention. The question is what they're about to see next. And judging by how quickly this story continues to evolve, the answer may arrive much sooner than anyone expects. By this point, the story had completely escaped control of the people directly involved. What started as a conversation among dedicated hip-hop fans had transformed into a full-scale industry discussion. Everywhere you looked, people were talking about it. YouTube channels were covering it. Podcast hosts were debating it. Blog pages were posting updates. Reaction channels were breaking down every new development. And perhaps most importantly, social media had officially chosen sides. The moment that happens in any major hip-hop story, everything changes. Because facts become opinions. Opinions become narratives. And narratives spread faster than the truth can ever catch up. Within hours, timelines were flooded with reactions. Some fans were standing firmly behind Finesse2Tymes. Others were defending Jay, Prince. And another massive group was focused almost entirely on the growing NBA YoungBoy connection. The result was complete division. Nobody seemed neutral anymore. Everyone had picked a side, and everyone believed they were right. Supporters of Finesse argued that every successful artist eventually reaches a point where they must evaluate their future. According to this perspective, growth is natural. Change is natural. New opportunities are natural. These fans believed Finesse had earned the right to make whatever decisions he felt were best for his career. They viewed the situation as a business matter. Nothing more, nothing less. Their argument was simple. Artists should control their own destiny. And if an artist believes a different path will lead to greater success, they should have the freedom to explore it. That viewpoint quickly gained traction, especially among younger fans who have grown increasingly supportive of artists' independence. But not everyone agreed, not even close. Another group viewed the situation completely differently. These fans focus on loyalty, respect, relationships, the importance of honoring the people who helped create opportunities in the first place. According to this perspective, success doesn't happen alone. Nobody reaches the top by themselves. There are mentors, partners, advisors, support systems, people who invest time and resources long before the rewards become visible. Supporters of this viewpoint argued that loyalty matters. And in hip-hop culture, loyalty has always carried enormous significance. The result was a massive clash of philosophies. Independence versus loyalty. Growth versus stability. Opportunity versus tradition. Neither side appeared willing to compromise. And every new discussion only intensified the divide. Then came the NBA YoungBoy factor. The moment his name became attached to the conversation, engagement skyrocketed. Again, every social media platform seemed to react instantly. Fans began imagining scenarios, predicting outcomes, building theories. Some people believed YoungBoy represented a new chapter. Others believed his involvement was being exaggerated. The speculation reached incredible levels. One post would claim a major change was inevitable. Another would insist nothing significant was happening. A third would suggest something entirely different. The confusion became part of the entertainment. Nobody knew exactly what was true, but everyone wanted to participate in the discussion. And participation creates momentum. Momentum creates headlines. Headlines create more attention. Soon, the story became impossible to avoid. Even industry personalities started commenting, not necessarily to provide answers, but because the topic itself had become too large to ignore. Several podcast hosts discussed the situation during their shows. Industry commentators offered different interpretations. Music journalists analyzed the broader implications. The conversations weren't always about specific details. Instead, they focused on what the story represented: a changing music industry, evolving artist relationships, the increasing importance of ownership and control. In many ways, the discussion expanded beyond the individuals involved. It became symbolic, a reflection of larger changes happening throughout hip-hop. That realization gave the story even more power, because once a situation becomes symbolic, people start projecting their own experiences onto it. Artists see career decisions. Managers see business strategy. Fans see loyalty. Entrepreneurs see ownership. Everyone views the same situation through a different lens. That's exactly what happened here. And that's why reactions became so intense. Meanwhile, content creators continued fueling the conversation. Every interview clip became a headline. Every quote became a discussion point. Every public appearance generated analysis. People weren't just consuming information anymore. They were searching for clues, trying to predict the next move before it happened. That anticipation created an entirely new level of excitement, because uncertainty is one of the most powerful forces in storytelling. The less people know, the more they speculate. The more they speculate, the more engaged they become. And engagement surrounding this story was reaching extraordinary levels. What made everything even more interesting was the absence of clear answers. Usually, major industry stories eventually produce a defining moment, a statement, an announcement, a confirmation, something that settles the debate. That hadn't happened here. Not yet. And because it hadn't happened, the arguments continued growing. Every day introduced new theories. Every week produced new predictions. Every discussion seemed to generate even more questions. At the same time, another fascinating trend began emerging. Some fans stopped focusing on the conflict entirely. Instead, they started focusing on the future. What could happen next? What opportunities might emerge? What changes might be coming? That shift transformed the energy of the conversation. Instead of looking backward, people started looking forward. Instead of debating old relationships, they started imagining new possibilities. And that's when industry observers began paying even closer attention. Because regardless of where someone stood on the situation, one thing had become undeniable. People cared. A lot. The attention surrounding the story was real. The engagement was real. The curiosity was real. And in today's entertainment landscape, attention is one of the most valuable currencies in existence. The bigger the discussion became, the more important the next chapter started feeling. Everyone seemed to sense it. Fans, commentators, content creators, industry insiders. They all felt the same thing. Something was building. Something was approaching. Something that could potentially redefine the entire conversation. The only problem? Nobody knew what it was. And that's exactly why the story refused to die. Because as long as questions remain unanswered, speculation continues. As long as possibilities remain open, curiosity survives. And as long as curiosity survives, the audience keeps watching, waiting, listening, analyzing, trying to be the first person to figure out what happens next. But if the reactions from fans and industry voices have proven anything, it's this. The next development won't just be another update. It could completely change the direction of the story. And judging by the level of attention the situation is already receiving, the fallout from that moment could be bigger than anyone currently expects. Just when it seemed like every possible angle of the story had already been discussed, a completely different possibility started emerging. And this possibility was bigger than contracts, bigger than rumors, bigger than social media debates. Because for the first time since this entire situation exploded, People started asking a question that nobody had seriously considered before. What if everyone has been looking at this story the wrong way? Think about it. For weeks, fans have focused on relationships. They've focused on loyalty. They've focused on business arrangements. They focus on speculation surrounding future partnerships. But what if the real story isn't about who Finesse2Tymes is leaving behind? What if it's about who he's becoming? That question changed everything. Almost overnight, the conversation started shifting. Instead of discussing the past, people began discussing the future. Instead of debating previous relationships, they began analyzing future possibilities. And once that happened, the entire narrative took on a completely different energy. Because whether people supported Finesse or disagreed with him, one thing became impossible to ignore. He's no longer the same artist he was a few years ago. The stakes are different now. The opportunities are different now. The expectations are different now. Every move carries more weight. Every decision attracts more attention. And every public action creates headlines. That reality alone creates pressure, massive pressure. The kind of pressure that forces artists to make difficult decisions. Sometimes those decisions strengthen existing relationships. Sometimes they create entirely new paths. The public rarely knows which one is happening until much later. And that's exactly why the uncertainty surrounding the situation continues growing. Because despite all the discussions, all the theories, and all the opinions flooding social media, there is still one major problem. Nobody actually knows what the next move is. Not the fans, not the commentators, not the content creators, not even many of the people confidently making predictions online. Everyone is operating with incomplete information, and incomplete information creates the perfect environment for surprises. That's where the final twist enters the story. Because while people continue debating whether major changes are coming, another possibility has quietly started gaining traction. What if the biggest development isn't a separation? What if it isn't a partnership? What if it isn't even a business announcement? What if it's something nobody has predicted yet? That possibility immediately captured attention, because history has repeatedly shown that the most significant moments in hip-hop often arrive from unexpected directions. The stories people spend months debating don't always end the way anyone expects. The rumored moves don't always happen. The predicted alliances don't always form. And the supposed endings sometimes become entirely new beginnings. That's why so many industry observers remain cautious. They've seen this before. They've seen situations that looked obvious from the outside suddenly take a completely different turn. And the more experienced the observer, the more likely they are to avoid making absolute predictions. Because in the music industry, certainty can disappear overnight. One conversation changes everything. One opportunity changes everything. One decision changes everything. That reality is what makes the situation so fascinating. Every possibility remains open. Every outcome remains possible. Every theory remains incomplete. Meanwhile, the attention surrounding the story continues reaching new levels. Fans are watching closely. Industry figures are paying attention. Content creators are monitoring every development. Everyone feels like they're waiting for something. The problem is that nobody knows exactly what they're waiting for. And that's where the suspense becomes impossible to ignore. Because when a story reaches this stage, it usually means one of two things. Either the speculation has gone too far, or the biggest chapter hasn't happened yet. Many fans seem convinced it's the second option. They're convinced there's another twist coming, another development, another headline, another revelation that could completely change the discussion. Whether they're right remains to be seen. But the anticipation is undeniable. Every interview is being analyzed. Every appearance is being dissected. Every public comment is being examined for hidden meaning. The level of scrutiny has become extraordinary. And with that scrutiny comes pressure. Pressure on everyone involved. Pressure to respond. Pressure to clarify. Pressure to address the growing speculation. Yet despite all that pressure, the mystery remains. The answers remain hidden. And the questions continue multiplying. That's why this story feels different from ordinary industry drama. Most stories eventually slow down. Most stories eventually reach a clear conclusion. This one hasn't. In fact, it appears to be moving in the opposite direction. The more information becomes available, the more questions seem to emerge. The more questions emerge, the more attention the story receives. And the more attention it receives, the larger the next development becomes. Which brings us to the biggest cliffhanger of all. What happens if a major announcement actually arrives? What happens if one of the key figures involved decides to finally address the speculation directly? What happens if the next move is bigger than anyone currently expects? Nobody knows. And that's exactly why people can't stop watching. Because right now, this story exists in a space between rumor and reality, between possibility and certainty, between what people think is happening and what may actually be happening. And somewhere inside that uncertainty lies the next chapter, a chapter that could validate the theories, destroy the theories, or introduce an entirely new twist that nobody saw coming. One thing is certain, the attention isn't fading, the curiosity isn't disappearing, and the conversation isn't ending anytime soon. In fact, judging by the way this story continues evolving, the most important update may still be ahead. And if that update arrives, it won't just create another headline. It could completely rewrite everything people think they know about the situation. Until then, the questions remain unanswered. The speculation continues growing, and the entire hip-hop world remains locked in, waiting to see what happens next. And now the biggest question is in your hands. After everything we've covered in this video, what do you think is really happening behind the scenes? Is Finesse2Tymes simply making smart business moves to the next stage of his career? Or is there something much bigger unfolding that the public hasn't fully seen yet? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now, because this debate is getting more intense every single day. We want to hear every perspective. Do you believe loyalty should come before business? Or do you think every artist has a right to make whatever decisions are best for their future, regardless of past relationships? And what about NBA YoungBoy? Do you think his growing connection to Finesse2Tymes is being overhyped by social media? Or could this be the beginning of a major new chapter that changes the direction of both artists' careers? Let us know exactly where you stand. And here's another question that's dividing hip-hop fans everywhere. Has the internet blown this entire situation out of proportion? Or are we witnessing the early stages of one of the biggest industry stories of the year? Sound off below, because the comment section is about to get very interesting. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you hit that like button. It helps the channel more than you think, and lets us know you want more coverage on the biggest stories happening in hip-hop right now. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss any updates, breaking developments, or exclusive breakdowns as this story continues to evolve. Because trust us, if new information drops, if a major statement is released, or if one of the key figures involved finally decides to speak out, you'll want to be among the first to know. The conversation is far from over. The speculation is only getting bigger. And the next update could completely change everything. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining the discussion. And remember, sometimes the biggest twists happen when everyone thinks the story is already over. We'll be watching closely, and we'll see you in the next video.